And I'm here with Michael Nix, who you met last time, playing with David and Althea, but also with Lorre Wyatt. We just saw your album as one of our giveaways tonight for people supporting, and that was the last album, I think, that Pete recorded? Or one of the last?
Yeah, one of the last. He did something else with telling stories, but this was the last sort of sung album. Yeah.
And so, what makes this album so special for you, other than having to? Now, how many albums have you been able to do, or how many times have you sung with Pete?
Oh, well, we knew each other over 5 decades, so we've sang numerous times. Yeah. With this, with this album, what was really unique about it was the first time that Pete recorded an album of almost all brand new songs. We had a project where we worked for about 4 years. I was recovering from a stroke, and he would send me tapes in the mail with music and say, fill in the missing words. And we got together, started just to write a few songs, and wound up, after we wrote a few, and then a few more, and Pete said, you know, we really should go to the studio with these. And so we made a CD called A More Perfect Union. That phrase comes from the preamble to the Constitution, but it had layers of meaning.
Well, I imagine it does, but I have to say it's a remarkable story. There's someone with decades and decades of repertoire and with all kinds of songs he was famous for, that actually, in kind of the later years, to actually put out an album that was all new stuff is amazing. So,
I think I learned a lot about late life creativity, which we might talk about another point too.
Well, we're going to talk later, but I know that people would like to hear some music. So what are you going to sing for us?
Well, I'm going to sing a song called Old Apples, and I thought I'd get a brief insight on how this song came about.
Okay, go ahead.
Often Pete and I would get together and bring down we'd write ideas on pieces of paper, and this particular time, one autumn, I brought down a big bushel basket of Franklin County apples, and by that winter there were some left, and by the spring when I came back again, there were some apples, but they were a little bit on the shriveled side, and they were heading toward the compost. And Pete usually greeted me in late life. He'd say, "I'm too old to write," and I'd say something like, "Pete, if the government told you were too old to write, would you stop?" He said, "Oh, all right." So he sat down and he looked at the paper, and this particular time he said, "There's really nothing worthwhile here." He even said, a little self-deprecatory humor, he'd say, "I don't know if this paper is worth recycling." So I said, "Let's take a break and get something to eat." And we looked in the fridge, nothing too promising. We spotted these old Franklin County apples, a little worse for the wear, and we made some applesauce. And I spooned them in a couple of bowls out, and Pete sat looking at the papers and said, "Nope, nothing here to circle." Whenever he'd find a good line, he would put a little circle around it. And so he had a little spoonful of applesauce, and he said, "Well, that's not so bad." And he looked at the paper again. He said, "Well, that's not so bad." And he circled a line there. And he had another spoonful of applesauce, and he said, "Actually, that's pretty good." And he looked at the paper and said, "Well, actually, that's pretty good." And I said, "Pete, keep eating." And he said, after a few more spoonfuls of applesauce, he turned to me and he said, "You know," he looked at the applesauce, looked at the paper, and he said, "I guess old apples still can make good sauce." And I waited there, and he gave a little slow wink. And I said, "Pete, we've got us the start of a song." He was already on its way over to the wall to grab the banjo. So we wrote a song called Old Apples. Autumn apples are juicy and crisp. In winter, they're sweet as a kiss. By spring, they're wrinkly, something is lost. But I guess old apples still can make good sauce. I guess old apples still can make good sauce. I guess old apples still can make good sauce. And who's to say what's gained and what is lost? sauce. Pete had this old Foley food mill that we put the apples in once we had made some applesauce. But first we wash them, chop them, put them in a pot, add a little cider, mash them up a lot, spoon them in the food mill, then we begin to turn the handle, making sauce without the seeds or the skin. And so I guess old apples still can make good sauce. I guess old apples still can make good sauce. Those apples, and who's to say what's gained and what is lost? I guess old apples still can make good sauce. Playing something saucy now. You're ringing those charming bells. Now if you dial 1-800-639-5057, that would be fine, because the folks over here that are answering the phones would know that people care about the station and they're not here all alone. And so I guess old apples still can make good sauce. Those apples, I guess old apples still can make good. And who's to say what's gained and what is lost? Well, I guess old apples still can make good sauce. Well, now you pour 'em in a big bowl, and then by Jove, add cinnamon, allspice, nutmeg, and clove from those wrinkly remains just about to be tossed. We found old apples still can make good sauce. Last chance to sing it, but keep dialing that phone. I guess old apples still can make good sauce. I guess old apples still can make good sauce. Tell me who's to say what's gained and what is lost? I guess old apples still can make good sauce. Thank you. 1-800-639-5057.